Shut up and sit down.
Yep. Welcome to Square Ring Podcast, everybody. Episode number 46. Tonight we have recent Ace Academy graduate and SICW wrestler Brice Cawvey.
How you doing?
How's it going, sir?
Living life.
Living life. There you go. So you had probably like a handful of matches this year, so not a whole lot to talk about. So we'll hopefully talk about your future in 2024 and see if we can expand. But I do want to ask, just to start off, how did you get in the business?
Well, I think it started how most of us started. Saw it on TV, wanted to do it. I was at my father's house one night, and he turned on WWE, and I think it was an episode of Monday Night Raw, and it was way back. I was little. I was maybe 4 or 5.
Damn.
And yeah, and the Undertaker came out. What's that?
I said so 3 years ago because you're young.
I'm only 20. But no, Undertaker was on that episode of Monday Night Raw, and I saw him and said, yep, that's what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so it's going to be an easy question. I feel it's going to be an easy question. Are you a WWE kid or a WCW kid?
WWE.
Yeah. I wish Bobby was on here just to rub that in his face because Bobby's a WCW kid. I always talk about it that as a kid growing up, I was a WWF/E. But as soon as I got, when I was in the business, that's when I started researching things and realized that WCW might have been a better one to follow work-wise because they were, WWF is more entertainment, more related to, kids and, because every wrestler had a profession. But in WCW, they were just wrestlers. And I always lean back to that if I would have known better, I would have just started watching WCW. So that's how you got enticed. But how did you actually get in the business? What got you in the door?
Whew, long story. So it starts off getting pulled over for a traffic stop. It's a good story already.
Right.
It was in East Carondelet, and everybody knows our promoter, Herb Simmons, was the mayor, still is.
Yep.
And during that stop, he was driving by and decided to stop and see what was going on. And he had recognized me from a previous show way back in, I think I was about 16, so 4 years ago. It was the first time SICW was at the Holy Family Gymnasium in Cahokia.
Okay.
My aunt hosted that show that year, and he remembered me from the show, and unfortunately I was hanging around some bad people at the time. Glad to get out of that. And that same night, he left me his card and said, if you ever want to come wrestle for us, message me, and we'll see what we can do for you.
Nice. Now, that show, was that the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase show?
Yep.
That is cool. Yeah. The $1 Million Man, after he retired, and this is mainly for Nate and people watching, but after he retired, he kind of found religion, and he started traveling to different churches and giving the gospel, and that's originally where I first met him too, and that was just because I was tracking him down, being a fan,
AKA stalker.
I would say fan, sir. He was actually in Fairy Heights at a church out there, and it's kind of a cool thing. $1 Million Man, he actually goes to Belleville quite a lot because one of his best friends / mentor, which is also a preacher, lives here in Belleville. So me not even knowing that, it's amazing how many famous wrestlers, either wrestle here in Belleville or, like Andre the Giant one of his drinking holes used to be here in Belleville. So it's kind of amazing that a lot of people don't know that. I mean, shit, Lou Thez wrestled at the Belleville Fairgrounds. Bruiser Brody wrestled at the Belleville Fairgrounds. You know, up till recently, Cody Rhodes wrestled at the Belleville Fairgrounds.
I remember Brandon talking about that.
Yeah, so I mean,
Well, it's like I always say, out in Belleville, and the podcast are the best kept secret in the profession.
there you go. So he gives you a card. You know, sometimes when people give me a card, I don't, call them right away or even call them back.
It took me maybe another 2 to 3 years to finally pick that card up and make that call.
Yeah.
So I was sitting at work one day, and I got a hair up my ass. My boss, who's a really good friend of my father, was watching WCW, and we weren't doing much at work that day. So I started looking through my wallet, and I pulled out Herb's card, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it.
That's cool.
Later that night, I came down to the academy and started the next. I think I walked in on a Tuesday, so I think I started the Thursday after that.
All right. So how long was your training down at ACE? Because you were down there before I even stepped foot down there, so I'm not too sure how long you were actually training for.
I started in. It was the summertime for sure, but I know I've been wrestling in November. It'll be 2 years. I want to say 1.5 to 2 years I've been here. So
no, that's cool. So I think a lot of the students don't realize having Bob Orton Jr. at the school every night. I think they get used to seeing him and then don't realize what they got there. What was your first meeting of Bob Orton Jr.?
So when I had walked in there, I didn't know that it was his school. I just thought it was a school that was owned by SICW. And then, because he wasn't in the room when I had walked in the door, and then he walks out of the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, that's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Watching him walk by. And no, I definitely relate with getting used to him, because I say all the time, I'm like, a good friend of mine always asks me, how do you not freak out? It's a Hall of Famer you're in the room with, and I'm like, well, I see Bob every Tuesday and Thursday, and I don't not acknowledge that he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a familiar face now.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's cool that we have someone with Bob's credentials hanging out with us every week, and, sometimes if we happen to call the practice off, he'll still show up, and it's crazy. But he loves, he still wrestles. He still goes out to signings. Matter of fact, this Saturday he's in Indiana signing. But for a guy who's done everything in the business, WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, given his family to the business, it's just I think it's such amazing that we have him there, and he's still giving us, because I still learn from Bob too. When I'm in there, training you guys or helping someone out, and if I do something wrong, in Bob's eyes, he's right up in there too, telling me, no, that's not how you teach this. This is not how you do this. This is what I want to see. But at the same aspect, it's kind of funny because you got his 70s and 80s type of era of his working style. And then you got, at the time it was Frankie D, and he was much older than me, 10 more years in the business than I was. So you had his and then mine. So like Frankie's was in the middle of those. And then you got Sean, who's a little bit younger than me, who trains a little bit different than me too. So it's a nice, I wouldn't say clash, but it's a nice combination of different styles. Because, we had 2 new students start last night. And one of the first things I told them was, I'm going to teach you on Tuesdays. Sean's going to teach you on Thursdays. Are we going to teach the same? No. Are we going to teach you the same moves? No. It's going to be up to you to learn my way, learn Sean's way, learn Bob's way, and then eventually, when we think you can start rolling on your own, you got to pick the one that feels better than you and use that. And then that's how you kind of create your, your style.
So, who trained you, Brice, when you were there?
It started off mainly with Frankie D, and then he had something personal come up, so he stepped away from the school for a while, and then it evolved into Texan on Tuesdays and Sean on Thursdays, and of course Bob's there most of the time, which I agree with Jim. It's very good having, it's like different eras teaching you at the same time, and that's kind of how I use the tools given to me. I pick from everybody I've learned from, and that's where my style comes from.
Yeah, because you do some great mid-ring wrestling, and that's old school.
Well, I tell you, I taught him everything off the top ropes, all the jumping stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't teach him any of that, man. In fact, I closed my eyes when I see him get on the top rope. But yeah, I think it's pretty. Not that it's funny or anything, but I think it's just weird that we're just so accustomed to seeing Bob every Tuesday and Thursday that he's just part of the family now. And I that's a good description too. He's part of the family, so love that guy. So you're training, working some matches, probably some dark matches, for about 2 years. I know you finally graduated. We did give you the plaque, right?
Yep.
We give you the plaque at the Belleville, one of the Belleville shows. It's hard for me to remember things. I chalk it up to chair shots in my earlier days. But I know we just recently gave Sean his, so I'm kind of hoping that you got it in front of you. Is that what you're grabbing?
No, my dog's trying to get me to play with a squeaky toy.
No. So your first match, not in a dark match, not hidden character or anything like that. Your first match was back at that church.
Yep.
In your area, your stomping grounds. What was that like?
Nerve-wracking, definitely. It's the first time going out there in front of a big crowd. I know normally on TV we've got a couple of people, but walking out to triple-digit people is a lot different than just double digits. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought with the dog. But once I got out there, all my nerves, once the bell rang, ding, 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 all nerves were off the table, and it was all work.
Was that against Glenn? Do I remember that correctly?
Yep.
So Glenn was another student who just recently, graduated as well. So you kind of worked out together for the most part.
Yep.
So I that might have helped, you overcoming those nerves, because it's someone that you actually trained with, and I don't know if you did or not, but you probably memorized some of his move sets just being in the same room with him. So that probably helped you a lot. Did you have a lot of friends and family there?
Surprisingly, quite a bit. I didn't think many people were going to be able to make it, but when I walked out and I actually scanned the crowd, there was a decent chunk of my friends and family out there.
So that's just like a perfect night, because I know you. The first match you had was at the church, and you won that match too.
Yep.
Oh, look at that,
Bobby D.
What's up, sir?
Not much.
Lost your belt and your trophy, huh?
I was in a hurry to get on here.
How was the kids tonight?
Oh, they were good. Landon won his match, and then they threw in an exhibition match, which that kid should not have been in, because the kid was crying to go on the mat with Landon. Like, literally.
So he was just scared.
Yeah. Because they had already wrestled their meat matches. And at one point, Landon posed and looked at their whole teammate as he was pinning the kid.
Nice.
Yeah, I wonder
So
where
he's
he
got a
got
little
that
bit of
from.
arrogance too.
I don't like the Collinsville coach, so I have no problem with it. Other than that, I usually tell him not to do things like that. That coach has been a pain at every tournament, though.
Well, there you go. You know, if you're a good coach, you always got to have a bad coach to determine who's the good and who's the bad, right? Just like in wrestling. We talked about Brice's first match, talked about his training. He talked about how he was a WWE kid.
That's two
But, you
chops
know,
for next training.
he's young. He's only 20 years old, so.
He's a baby.
Right. So you talked about The Undertaker. Who else was your wrestling idols?
At the time, John Cena. I think that goes for most young kids. I liked CM Punk a lot at the time. Who else?
I don't know why you like John Cena. You can't see him wrestle.
Have those changed since you became a worker, though?
Oh, I don't know how I missed this one. Randy Orton, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And even when John's in the ring, he doesn't wrestle.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is how much have those? How much has that changed since becoming a worker?
You know, Taker's always had my top spot. Roman Reigns is up there now. What?
I said he could always work.
Yeah. Roman Reigns is up there now. But yeah, storytelling wise, Roman's up there now. When he does wrestle, it's very entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm really liking what they're doing with Gunther, pushing him as well, showing that he's actually working big. He's not, you know, how did they put it? Not working a different size than he is.
You know, I think every few years that belt that he's got the IC belt, right?
Yeah, I'm not used to it being black. I'm used to it being white. But yeah.
So every few years, I think they dump that title until they put someone in there to not reclaim it, but reclaim the status of that title. Because that title was always the stepping stone for you to be lined up to go against the champion. And it's so weird. It's kind of like the tag titles, too, you know. There'll be a few years where there's really no tag teams and they don't really push the tag team titles. And then, you know, people like the Usos step up and then, you know, create a whole tag team division.
All right.
That's a nice little cut there. But, you know, so I think I really like Gunther. I hate the fact that they changed his name when he first became. But I really like him. He's got that strong style. You know, of course, you know, that's what he was doing, you know, overseas. Is he British? I know he's not an American. He's from maybe Wales or something.
I think so.
But and they always had that strong style over there. You know, so it's I'm glad that they're bringing it over here, and he's making a name for that title again. I want to just slide back about the John Cena. Now, you know, he knows how to wrestle. I've got so many tapes of him being the prototype and wrestling under that gimmick. And there's actually a series of DVDs that I have of him teaching, because the school that he started working for in California, they had him kind of like a student / coach. And it's on DVDs of him coaching other people how to wrestle. And it's so funny, too, because in that class was John Cena, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, there's another guy too that normally tags with Christopher Daniels. God, I'm bad with names, but it's so cool to see that class that he was coming up with, and of course now Samoa Joe's AEW's heavyweight champion, and John Cena's been a multiple time. I think he's 15. I don't think he
I
might
think
have
he's in
tied with
15
Ric
now.
Flair, but I know he hasn't passed Ric Flair. But it's kind of cool seeing all that stuff. Yeah, but he's got, even though he doesn't show that he knows how to wrestle per se, he's got the Hogan thing down where you got the 5 moves, you keep the fans entertained, and they love him for it. So he found his niche and he made it work.
Yeah, just when I said that, it was in reference to the joke through his career that you can't see him because he doesn't even wrestle when he's on the ring anyway.
Randy Orton, I think that's a great guy to study and to learn from. I don't know, he hasn't really changed up his style. I thought he would, having the back surgery. But he's come back strong, and it's like he's never skipped a beat. Someone
He
like
looks like he put a
Austin.
lot of muscle on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He looked way bigger than when he before he left.
Yeah. But someone like Austin, who was a worker, as soon as he got his neck broken, then he became a brawler. And I thought for sure maybe, because there was all those rumors about the doctor don't want Randy to come back, but he came back anyway. So I thought for sure he was going to have to change his style up, but doesn't seem like he's changing it up at all. So still the Viper. So you've had a handful of matches out of the locker room. Besides me and Bobby, who would you like to wrestle?
Oh, now I gotta remember everybody that's back there.
You're stuck on challenging for Central States, aren't you?
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
I want to say Gil Rogers, but I've already wrestled Gil Rogers in a dark match.
Yeah.
I think.
Who do you think will test you and put you to the limits?
Attila Khan.
Ooh. That I bet he wouldn't. Because you never want to wrestle someone that you know you're going to beat. You want to wrestle someone who's going to challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
And this match we have up, which is where the sound came on, is with you against another big guy.
Well, let's go ahead and play it. Let's see what we got here.
You want sound on or off?
You can kick it on. You guys are going to test my eyes here, though.
Hey, Tyler!
Look at that. Already got the fans behind you.
Working the crowd.
How well do you remember this match, Brice?
I remember the beginning, but I actually kind of hurt myself a little bit in this match, and I'll point it out when it comes out. But I was waiting behind the curtain, waiting for the music to hit, and the second it hit, it was such a big adrenaline rush. I threw my water, as you saw, not playing. Felt like it was the right thing to do.
Now, where did he come up from? Because he's not from this area.
I think he came up from Arkansas.
So you popped the Destroyer's cherry in SICW. Nice. I'm sorry, we're supposed to be family friendly for this part.
Yeah, a little word of advice, guys that much bigger than you think.
At what point did you hurt
There you
yourself?
go. There's the speed.
I think it's when I'm coming off of a rebound on the rope. I think it's right here. Yep.
Right there?
Oh,
Back of my
Oh,
head off the canvas.
yeah, you can see the pain in the face.
and that's
So you
always
don't
weird
remember the
too,
rest, huh?
because
I do remember forgetting what came next, but I snapped back into it pretty quick.
well, I was gonna say this is what's weird too is the people that's trained and lived in the St. Louis area, most of the time it's a similar training, where you got someone coming up from a different state, like Arkansas. They probably train differently out there. So this is a nice little test, because you got someone you don't know their move sets. You never been in a locker room with the guy before, so you kind of gotta go off of flow and how it feels, and try to get in there where you can.
Yeah, because Attila's going to use some spikies and some spray.
Speaking of Tilla, I'm just going to plug it out right now. Next weekend, not this coming weekend, but January the 13th. He's at that big main event again. It's going to be him and Gary Jackson in a steel cage. They got a special referee. Danny Boy. Previously talked about Danny Boy, how he actually helped train me way back in the day.
Back when Abraham Lincoln was president.
I'm not that quite old, but my joints feel like I'm that old. Even at training, sometimes I have, I abuse Brandon. I abuse Brice too, because, I feel like everyone does when you get so many years in the business, you only got so many bumps left. So, I have the young cats, take some of these bumps and show the other ones how to do it. So it's
Well,
always
and
nice.
Bryce, some of your moveset here you didn't get from Jim because he doesn't do the.
I do that one all the time, every match. What are you talking about?
You just don't pay attention, Nate.
God, Nate.
Yeah, I guess being the
I've
TV
seen
guy.
Jim take a top rope bump. Scared me, but
I have not seen Jim get clawed.
Oh, that's what he's doing too, ain't he? Oh man.
Yeah, he's doing the 10 claw. Can't be the iron claw.
It just
I
means
prefer
Bryce
the
should have
Iron
been in
Claw.
the movie The Iron Claw, because they did a lot of the Iron Claws in that movie. Have you got to see that movie yet, Bryce?
I actually did. It was really good.
And now you know how to get out of the Iron Claw.
Yeah, you see, you
Have
watched the
Stephen
movie
E
too
come
late.
in.
It's easier to dodge the Iron Claw than to get out of it.
It's true.
So, did you hear about the Von Erichs while you're growing up watching WWE? I know they were all out by then, but did you
Yeah.
hear anything about the Von Erichs? Did you learn anything new when you
I
watched the movie?
I actually I was growing up with my grandparents for 20 years. This is my first year out of their house. So, but my grandpa was a big Wrestling at the Chase fan. I wouldn't say extreme like Herb. That's that's Herb's favorite thing in the world. But no, my grandpa used to watch the old guys and like Dick the Bruiser, Kevin Von Erich, and Kerry and David. And listening to those stories, I one day I googled the Von Erich family, and I liked what they put out. For a new age, like growing up on the new age of wrestling, living with my grandparents showed me that, yay, old school is not that different. It's almost better.
Right. You had Kevin, who did some more top rope moves than, Kerry or David. You had David, who was really the wrestler. And then Kerry was, the showman. Kerry had the body and he had the looks of a great superstar. And Kerry is the one that I followed first. I caught a little bit from the WCCW days, but, I really was hooked when he was the Texas Tornado in the WWF. And that's when I started looking back at him and realized there's this whole library of matches and tapes of that whole family, and just got really interested in them by that. And my God, the tragedies in that family. It's horrible. You can't, shoot, just one death in a close knit family is bad enough. But to have what was it, 4 actual deaths? You can't, man. So, who's your favorite superstars of today, of the now era?
Today.
Do you even watch wrestling today? See, like some of us old timers, we don't watch the current product.
Honestly, I really don't. I mainly watch pay-per-views. Like, I know in February, Monday Night Raw is going to be coming, and I'll be going to that show at the Enterprise Center, hoping to see The Rock, because my first WWE event back in 2011, I was faked out by The Miz impersonating The Rock.
God, I remember that episode too.
I mean, the Miz
That's my first one.
Now, I've recently just rewatched all of the Tough Enough series. Did you catch any of that?
I used to watch it, I think before the network. But my favorite season was the one that had Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville.
That was the last season.
Dream. Yep.
That was season 6.
What was the one that Stone Cold had hosted? Because I watched that
was season 5. Yes, I'm hoping, and there's been some talks about them bringing that back. So I love that show. Just to see how. Season 1 will always be my favorite. I've always been a Maven fan. I thought Maven was so good. I wish he never left. And now he's trying to rekindle all that. You see him on YouTube now. He's pushing his YouTube channel, pushing some of the shows that he's on with Matt Cardona and that little clique. So he's talking about how he's trying to get back into the swing of working out and be ring ready and everything like that. So that's kind of cool. But that will always be my favorite. But yeah, Stone Cold's season 5 was pretty good. Bill DeMont, he's the one that actually was talking about, hey, if we can get Tough Enough to come back, evidently he's still a trainer. I thought he had got fired with that whole, that internet stuff about some of his training style. We'll just say like that, got him fired. It's really funny. You should look into it. One part of the reason why he was fired is a video surfaced. I think it was Matt Cardona and another wrestler. And, in the Tough Enough series, you can see them training in the ring and then all the outside the ring training where they had to run so many miles and do these obstacle courses. Well, and through the whole Tough Enough series, they always came up with some sort of, not a rib or anything, but like if they were to come out and say something, Bill would hold them to it. And so the Matt Cardona talking about how they would do wrestling like a small match. I think it was even like a stink face or something like that. But they would do it butt naked if they didn't have to do the outside of the ring stuff. And Bill was like, Do it. And so it was him, and I want to say it was Matt Cardona's little sidekick. Um, Again, I'm horrible with names. I want to say his name was. Well, they were the Christian Edge guys. When Edge had Matt Cardona and the other
Kurt
guy with
Hawkins?
him,
Was it Kurt Hawkins?
Hawkins. I think it was those two in the ring that was wrestling. And then that video surfaced on the internet. Someone, recorded it and put it out there. And that's what actually got him fired. It's just stupid shit like that. But as long as wrestling's been out there, there's always been some sort of rib pulled on a guy, or some contest or something. I think the worst rib I wasn't involved in, but I seen it happen. Was one of the places we used to wrestle always had a shower room, but it was right there in the middle of everyone. So there was a curtain that you can wrap around you, so at least you had some sort of privacy. But people would be pissing in cups or stuff and like throw it into the shower while the guy's showering. So stupid shit like that. Different pranks in the ring trying to get them to laugh, or smile real big when they're supposed to be the heel or something. But nothing like that. That's just crazy. But yeah, I'm hoping that TV show comes back because I really liked it. And I know you weren't at the gym last night. The gym reopened, from the Christmas holidays and New Year's. But I took quite a few things, from the Tough Enough series, and I had the students do it last night. So it's kind of cool. I got a bunch in my back pocket too. I'm gonna throw out at some of the new guys. I guess we're coming to the point where we're gonna try to test your knowledge a little bit.
Yep, it's Name That Gimmick.
Name the Gimmick.
Jim has some true or false questions as well.
Right. All right. Now, your predecessors, Joey and Brandon, did okay. They got most of them wrong, but they were able to get like one or two.
That was a proven plan.
Sean didn't get any of them right, so you might be the hero of this, and I think you're the youngest one of all three of those guys. So we'll see. Nate, who you got for the first one?
This one is an easy one, Brice.
Oh, okay. I know who that is.
What's the gimmick?
What's the name? And then who is he actually?
Well, he's actually Hulk Hogan, but isn't the name Mr. America?
Good job. That's one. He's got one.
Yeah, so far.
Price
starting
right.
out of the gate.
One right.
You already beat Sean.
It's not that hard.
All right. Number 2.
He was at FanFest.
Yes, he
Yep,
was.
and this was actually named by a group of fans as one of the top 10 gimmicks.
Looking at it on my phone screen, it looks like what's his name? Ron Jeremy in a bank robbing mask.
That is not the gimmick.
No.
Well, this
You leave my
is
hero alone.
the Repo Man.
Okay.
You know who the Repo Man, one of his other gimmicks, very popular, more popular than a Repo Man ever was.
I might, but I don't think so.
His most popular gimmick, he was Smash from Demolition.
Oh, okay.
You can't tell from that?
No.
Yeah, Barry Darson. And he was at last May's Fan Fest. Not too sure. I think I've seen pictures of him. He might be at this year's Fan Fest too. Not 100% sure on that.
I think he's gonna be there. I think Herb just put out a bunch of new pictures on his Instagram.
Oh, I know he posted today another Glow Girl.
Greg Valentine.
She's like one of them that kind of took the Legion of Doom name. But I really got to look into these Glow Girls because that's an organization that I never really followed or
We
looked
have a
at.
lot of them coming.
Right.
Greg, he posted Greg Valentine today. Haven't
Right.
seen him in years.
Well, he was actually just a couple years ago. He was at our big Halloween.
Yeah, he was there, wasn't he?
Spooktacular.
That was Glow Girl, Beastie, the Road Warrior.
The Road Warrior. That's why Legion of Doom popped in my head.
Since we're talking about Glow Girl, this next one is from Jim, so get mad at him for this one. I don't think you're going to get it, but it started in the 70s. This is the second iteration.
That's Black Widow.
It's close.
It
Very
is close.
That Moolah.
It is Moolah.
That
Oh
is
my
Moolah,
God.
yeah.
That is
Damn.
awesome. 2 out of 3.
This is the one I didn't think you would get.
So
That's the Spider Lady.
The story behind this, and the reason why I chose this one is because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and the lady that she went against is Wendy Richter. Wendy was the WWF Women's Champion, and evidently she, rightfully so, was asking for more money. Back then the ladies didn't make nowhere near what the guys did, and Vince McMahon was like, no. Of course, he never was big into women wrestlers. Valets, yes. Hot, pretty girls, yes. Unfortunately, now, with all his little court things that he's got going on. So Wendy Richter was the ladies' champion, and she was beating everyone, legit-wise beating people.
6 years worth.
Yeah. So Moolah, went. This was like the original screw job. Like the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels thing. They came up with a plan. They were going to hide Moolah in this gimmick, and Moolah was just going to stretch her and cause her to lose. And if you look through this match, you can see the referee was definitely involved, but Wendy was able to keep getting out of the pins. And then eventually you see it's just a really quick fucking pin. And of course, Wendy was like, bullshit, who the fuck is this person? And was chasing her down and eventually ripped the mask. And everyone thought, oh, it's Moolah and all this shit, but it was a legitimate screw job and probably one of the original ones. That's why I chose it, because Wendy Richter will be at our Fan Fest.
And we posted Wendy Richter's, not her last match, but one of her Wrestling at the Chase matches against Vivian St. John.
Yes, yes. Who you got? Who's next? He's 2 for 3.
He is. He's doing a great job.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's a little bit.
Was this one of mine?
Yep.
Uh-oh. Oh, I know who it is. You probably won't get this one because there's a WCW character.
Okay, Bobby.
Back to the second picture. I don't think I know the character name, but is that Davy Boy?
Nope. That should be Wrath, also known as Adam Bomb in the WWF or WWE. It might have been the WWE by then, but he was, I might even pronounce it wrong, Wrath. He had, it was a tag team. Eventually, this character, this was back when WCW was doing like this Mortal Kombat gimmick thing. They had Glacier, they had him, and they had another guy who was just
Mortis.
on.
There's Mortis. He was green, supposed to look more like a reptile.
Right. They just did one of those Dark Side of the Rings on his tag partner. Because he came out being gay, and Vince McMahon evidently didn't care for that, and had the Undertaker beat the shit out of him for legit. But yeah, so that is Adam Bomb. Now he is still going around signing autographs at different wrestling shows. He's still in great shape, so you never know. There might be a little Legends thing coming through. All right, I knew that one might have been
I
hard.
like this tag team of Chronic though.
Right, yeah. I forgot about that tag team. It was the
This
same
is one of
guys
the worst
too,
gimmicks of all time.
Must
Now,
be, because I have no clue.
I'm sure you know his one of his ECW gimmicks.
This is the Portuguese man of war.
That is Aldo
ECW.
Montoya, but that is just incredible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Justin Incredible was with basically DX. That whole little clique. He was good friends with X Pac and Shawn Michaels, but he just couldn't get a gimmick to go over in the WWF. And so eventually they dropped him. The clique couldn't hold it together for him, I guess, or maybe they didn't care too much about him. Then he left after this and became Justin Credible, ECW.
Yeah, this one was just bad.
There was another gimmick too he had, but I don't remember what it was. But it was one of those. It's kind of like Al Snow, how he had so many gimmicks in the WWF. He was the new rock and roll. And, he was with Marty Jannetty when they were doing the new version.
Yeah, but
the
he also
Rockers.
did one where he was masked.
Al Snow.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was. Yeah. Al Snow does a great interview about one of his first times he ever wrestled Bruiser Brody. And I think we brought that up too before as well. How he, the night before, the guy took advantage of him and really rocked his noggin. And so he expressed that to Brody. And Brody's match was him versus Al Snow and another guy. So he just basically pushed Al Snow down and beat the shit out of the other guy. Yeah, pretty good storytelling. Was there any more?
No, we're only doing 5 because you had the
Well, I wasn't too sure if you
True
were
False.
doing 5 like we did last time, so a total of 10.
According to Wikipedia, though, Justin Credible's ring names were Aldo Montoya, Justin Credible, Justin Time, PG 187, PG Walker, PJ Policope, and PJ Walker.
Yeah, I remember PJ Walker too. But all right, so not too bad. What'd you get? 3 out of 5?
I think it was 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5?
I know I
Well,
got
still, I would say you're probably better than the other 2 guys that we had, the other 3 guys we had on here.
I was like, 2 of them were working together and only got 2.
Yeah, that was pretty sad there. All right,
No, you did pretty good.
This is we didn't ask them any questions. We just had them look at the pictures and see if they can guess who they were. So this is the first time we're throwing this part of it at someone. Again, this isn't new stuff, so I'm hoping you watch some of the 80s and 90s and try to do some history. And I was talking to another guy tonight, and I was talking to him about how since he's in wrestling, he should study the old stuff. You should know the history of wrestling, of what you're doing. If you love this business, I feel that you should find out as much as you can about the business. So hopefully you might know some of these. All right, we're going to start off with the really oldest question. Out of these 3 characters, Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, and Shawn Michaels, who was the longest WWF champion, the longest time holding it?
Bruno Sammartino.
1 for 1, 1 for 1. All right. True or false? The first European champion was Owen Hart.
False.
Do you know who it was?
I had a 50-50 shot. No, I don't know who it was.
You said his name earlier, so that's why I asked. So it actually, the first European title was in like a tournament style, kind of like they do for King of the Ring, and it came down to the British Bulldog and Owen Hart, and British Bulldog beat Owen Hart for the championship. You know what? I said the Bruno one was going to be the oldest one, but can you name the two names of the NWA? The current NWA, what it stands for, and what the original version of the. It was actually two different companies, very similar in the names. But do you know what's the current one stand for?
I'm going to take a long shot. I want to say National Wrestling Association.
That was actually the very first one. That one
Okay.
started in 1930. What does the current NWA stand for?
National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, there you go. That's perfect. That's the
Cool.
oldest question too, and you got that right.
I just heard David Manning talking about it on Dark Side of the Ring. When
Oh,
it was
really?
actually a Von Erich episode, so that saved me.
Bryce kicking some butt.
Yeah, I know. All right. Out of the three Mick Foley characters, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love, which one was given the hardcore title? The very first time a hardcore champion was crowned.
Mankind.
Wow, I'm shocked. It is Mankind. I thought for sure you were going to say Cactus Jack because Cactus Jack was more hardcore than the other two. I mean, Dude Love wasn't hardcore at all, but
Cactus Jack didn't come back into WWF until later in his career, though. He did Cactus Jack everywhere else, and then he did Mankind for most of his career. And I believe he only wrestled 3 times as Mick Foley.
you know what, Bobby? Do you know what his name for him was in WCCW? I think it actually carried on to Memphis too when he was in Memphis, and then they
I don't even
shortened
know
it. It was Charles. They were trying to take it off of Charles Manson, but was it Charles? It might have been Charles Manson Foley. No, I'll have to research that. I know it's based off of Charles Manson. Is who they were having him portray.
Without the tattoo.
Right, without the special tattoo.
Without his Zen tattoo, yeah.
Cactus Jack Manson.
Cactus Jack Manson. Yeah, that is crazy. All right, that was actually all of my questions. So, man, you did a damn good job.
You killed
So
it.
let me
Yeah.
ask you one more question just to wrap it up. Out of everyone that Herb is broadcasting so far for this next May show, is there someone special that you want to see and meet and talk to?
I actually have two. I want to meet David Schultz and Abdullah.
That's nice. I met them both. And I was very quiet around David Schultz. I didn't really ask him too much. You know, I didn't want to ask him if the wrestling was fake or not. You know, it's just one of those things.
I heard Brice was going to.
Dude,
What did I do now?
I will give you money if you talk to him.
Yeah, we will each give you money if you ask Dave a certain question.
Oh, it would be so awesome. Someone's got to have some balls to do that.
When you wake up, we'll give it to you.
Hey, the last guy that asked him that, you know, got some money out of the deal. A lot of money out of the deal. So, you know, it might just be worth asking. Why Abdul the Butcher?
Again, one of my grandpa's favorites, and doing the research, I'm a hardcore fan, and with him bleeding every night, pretty much, just drew my attention.
Yeah, I mean, he's had so many classic matches with Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen and and yeah, every single night. I mean, that you wonder why he always ate and was always big because he always lost a lot of blood, so he had to make up for that.
Replenish.
Now I'm starting to see why Brice wants to wrestle Attila.
there's only there's a difference between like you and Attila and you and Abdul. Those are some big guys. You're not as big as the likes of an Attila. Doesn't
So,
that like scare you off or anything?
well, 5'9", almost 200 pounds, but yeah, not really. Speed plays a good game, and skill as well. And of course, he's got a lot of skill too, but he's got to catch me to put it on me.
So
Well,
go ahead.
do you plan to stay the frame you are? Or are you going to put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle?
I most definitely want to gain some muscle, and I know Kevin Von Erich. I keep resorting back to him. He's one of my favorites of all time. But he had said he was talking about his brother Mike, or no, it was Chris. He was talking about Chris because Chris was the smaller guy, roughly my size, I believe. And,
No, he's 5'4".
Oh, that's actually shorter than me. Okay. But he had a conversation with Chris one time, and Chris was depressed because he couldn't put on all the muscle. And Kevin told him, the muscles are just the looks. If you have the actual in-ring ability, you can worry about the muscle later. But
Just like David, David, he had no muscular body frame. But if you talk to anyone who knew the Von Erichs, David was the best wrestler.
Yeah, because
But
Kerry had that classic V going down, but
even
more
Kevin,
muscle comes getting tired.
you look at Kevin, and you could tell Kevin, did some weightlifting because he was all muscle toned and everything, but not David. If you watch the David match, he just looks like a tall, slender guy, but he just knew, he picked up on it a lot better than those guys.
there's actually a picture floating around. I'll have to see if I can find it, and I'll send it to you guys. But there's a picture of Kerry in my great-grandmother's living room flexing with his shirt off.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I haven't heard why he was in her living room. I
I was
just
gonna say
know
this
there's a
opens
story.
up so many questions.
Yeah. Who's your grandpa?
Oh, he was in my
grandma
grandmother's living room.
Was your grandma a groupie?
That is awesome. So, of course, 2023 is now done and over with. What do you want 2024 to look like for you? What's your goals? What's your plan?
Well,
Do you even have a goal?
I've got a few goals wrestling-wise and a few goals personally. Wrestling-wise, I'd definitely like to start toning out and putting on the muscle that I very well desperately could use. Personally, I'm looking into a house, so I'm hoping to get a house. Travel's a big thing. Travel plays into personal and wrestling because if you go out into say Chicago, I just came back from Chicago. I was in Chicago for New Year's Eve, but there's a handful of companies up there I know, and it never hurts to poke your head in and say, hey, I'm from St. Louis. I'm been wrestling for about a year and a half now. I've graduated the ACE Academy run by Bob Orton. You have anything, that you could use me for? And, the worst they could say is no. But
Right. Yeah. When I was talking to Brandon and Joey last week, I told them, the best thing for you to do if you're serious about the business and you want to make it, or even if you're just having really good times and want to have a lot of fun, best thing to do is spread your wings and fly around to other promotions. The experience you learn, just the road trip alone. Getting you and maybe 3 or 4 other guys and heading out to some other state, or Chicago, 6 hours away. Just the conversations that you learn from. Shawn Michaels used to talk about it. Triple H too, about when Triple H came up to the WWE, that him just listening to Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon and Kevin Nash talk, was a great deal of experience for him that he was able to learn just from that. But yeah, definitely. And that's why I told him too, I said, hop on all the podcasts you can, because, a podcast is just an easy way for you to get a ticket to another promotion. A lot of people are hopping on huge pop podcast. They're based out in Florida. A lot of SICW guys, he's bringing a lot of SICW guys on. And, they don't know us. But he partners with a wrestling organization down there. So just them seeing us on his podcast could open the doors, if you go to Florida for a trip or something. I didn't know you were in
I'll be on there
Chicago.
next Thursday.
You're going there next Thursday?
Well, on the podcast, I'm not going to Florida.
Oh, I was going to say. Yeah, I thought it was funny that you were in Chicago, too, because my youngest son, Dylan, he's actually in Chicago. He's still in Chicago. But he went out there for the New Year's, but he won't be coming home until like Monday or Tuesday.
My trip was so much fun, but there was so many things that went wrong. For one, the hotel fell through, so didn't have anywhere to stay. So we pulled an all-nighter, and when we did needed a nap, we pulled into a parking garage for naps. So
Wow.
of course, one person stayed awake at all times. But
man, if I would have known.
You made her stay up the whole time?
What?
You made her stay up the whole time?
No. Oh, right. So actually, right before midnight, we had all woken up at like 11:45. We all four fell asleep. I was down there with two friends and my fiance, and it was 11:45, and we were supposed to head to Navy Pier to watch the fireworks. And I'm like, I don't think we're gonna make it. We were supposed to wake up at 10:30 and get a head start, but that didn't happen. So I watched New Year's fireworks from a parking garage roof.
It was still probably cool.
Oh, it was. You could see perfect 360.
Oh, yeah. If I would have known that, Dylan, they didn't have a hotel. They did where you rent a house.
Airbnb.
Yeah, Airbnb. And they sent us videos of it. It was like a 2-3 bedroom house. It was just him and his girlfriend. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what part of Chicago they were, but something famous down there. Something, the Bean is some sort of famous.
It's a big statue.
They stayed like 10 minutes away from that. So, I don't know what
actually
that
went down
is.
there that night. They had it closed off.
No.
Yeah, they were letting everybody ice skate on the rink, but the Bean itself was closed off.
That's because Dylan spray painted it.
Yeah, probably. He did send me pictures of the food that he was eating because they stopped off at one of your places, Bobby, that Portello's.
Oh, yeah. Hope they got the chocolate cake shake.
I asked them because I knew you talked about it, and they said no, but they actually had the cake. So they had the cake, but they didn't. I guess they didn't realize it was, they could have got it in a shake form.
Oh, yeah. You get that chocolate cake shake, mix in some strawberries, money.
That's brownies for lunch.
All right, so you want to buy a house or get into a house, and you want to put on some muscle, but wrestling wise, do you have any goals? Do you want to go after Bobby Central States, or you want to step up and come after the classic title, or do you have a friend that you might partner with and go for the tag belts?
Well, everything in me, wants the biggest prize you can get, which would be the classic title. But I'm also well aware that you got to show you're worth it and you got to work for it. So it'll come with time. But as for right now, with the first couple of months coming up, I don't have much planned, but you never know where wrestling's going to take you. Anything's possible with wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Just about anything's possible with Herb. The places he took us last year, now that it's 2024, places he took us last year was just amazing. And that's coming from a guy who's been in the business 20 years. Probably the most fun I've had was this year, and everyone who we got to meet. I'm gonna throw it on to you like I did to Brandon. Can you imagine all the legends you got to meet last year? I mean, Herb had 50 of them at the Mayfest, and then he had some scattered throughout the year. I mean, I couldn't imagine being my first year and meeting and talking to everyone that you had the opportunity to. I don't know if you went out that far and tried to meet everyone and talk to them, but that's always my goal.
I had more so leaned towards eavesdropping over to their circles. Gerald Briscoe, JBL, and Haku were all talking outside at the Fan Fest the past year, and I was supposed to be working the door at the time because I wasn't wrestling the show, and I just kept scooching closer and closer, listening to JBL and Jerry Briscoe. But
Well, those are fun ones to listen to.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I think there was a picture that someone posted of that little circle, because I think eventually Stan Hansen was out there and Greg Gagne was out there, and it was just like a perfect group of individuals, and someone caught it on film. So I think that's pretty damn cool.
I took a picture. I think it was right after the show, or maybe before the show. In between, I think it's between the Fan Fest and between the show. And it's like I took that picture. And it's like, where else can you ever see this?
Right.
It was just them guys just sitting around the table bullshitting.
Yeah.
May 13th coming up.
Yeah. No.
Oh, it's not.
May 17th.
17th
and 18th. It's going to be 2 days. 2 days show this year.
Do not show up on the 13th.
Do not show up on the 13th.
13th of January.
Yeah, January 13th. But so May 17th is going to be the one-man show put on by Bill Apter. It's kind of like a song and dance kind of comedy / storytelling. Because I tell you, that one guy has been to every single promotion and knows every single guy there is. So that's going to be very cool, very interesting. And then you got the Fan Fest. And I talked to Herb today. They haven't released all the names, but we're already at 50. And it looks like they're shooting for more. So, I mean, that's going to be crazy. This is going to be the most popular.
Last year.
Man, it's and the last few names that he hasn't released are going to be the barn burners. I mean, these are going to be the guys that you're going to go to it just for them. I mean, granted, one of my favorite guys is Greg Valentine, and he will always be one of my favorites just because he was my first legend that I got to wrestle. And he was the very first legend that taught me a great lesson. And I don't know if I expressed this before on the podcast or not, but him being my first guy to wrestle, him being a legend, I walked up to him and asked him what he would like to do because, you're supposed to follow, the veteran in the ring. And I clearly wasn't even close to being 10, 15 years into the business when I got the opportunity to. And he ran over what he was going to do and how we were going to do it. And when we got into the ring, we didn't do a single fucking thing like he said. And that was a big lesson to me, But he's a great guy. He's kind of a little weird in the ring because it takes him about 30 minutes to get warmed up. When you're watching his matches, he's very rugged, walks stiff, stiff-legged until 30 minutes in, and then he becomes loose and starts working like a good, wrestler. But
well, that's because he's used to wrestling 30 minutes, an hour.
He talks about it all the time. He's one of the old school guys that would always wrestle 60 minutes, and he just learned how to pace himself, so he didn't blow up or anything like that, and could do it. But it's very interesting. I can't say names, but all I can say is buy your tickets now because you're going to want to go there just for the names that haven't been said yet.
Now, Jim, we haven't talked about it. We haven't mentioned it at all, but does Herb have a card for the wrestling in the evening set
No,
out yet?
he doesn't have a card yet for it. I mean, there's a possibility of a match that I think will happen, but it hasn't been announced yet. And that is the NWA. We got two NWA guys going this time around. Tim Storm, and there's another guy who he is currently feuding with in the NWA. So they're both going to be at the meet and greet. So I'm assuming that something might happen and cause a match to happen at the show. Because we all know they have a Missouri license because NWA wrestles here. So that hasn't been announced yet, but I'm just putting two and two together. But the only one that I know that's on the card is Miranda Gordy. And I think they posted the girl that she's going to wrestle against, too.
Yeah, they did.
I can't 100% say her name, but I do know that she's going to be on the card. But, wherever Miranda goes, her fiance or boyfriend.
Niles. I always say Nick. I don't know why, but Niles.
Yeah, Niles isn't going to be too far away. So I'm sure he'll have a match on the card. Because he doesn't look good as a valet. So I'm sure he'll have a match. But that's really it. We're still
Bobby
talking.
should be on there as the Bruiser Brody Cup champion. He should be on there.
Well,
defending
yeah,
that cup.
Bobby's got to defend it, so he'll be in it.
I will definitely be in the Battle Royal if nothing else.
Yeah.
Can't keep me away from that.
Three times in a row.
That's right.
You
I've
got to
already made
figure
this video 2 times and in a row, so now it's time to make it 3.
I don't know. I think Brice is going to lift you over the top.
Hey,
he can try.
Anything can happen in Rumble. But, yeah,
So Miranda
still 5
Gordy
months away.
is going against Miranda Gordy is going against Tatovic the Gamer.
You know what? I actually looked her up because I didn't know who she was, and I totally forgot her name already again. But she's actually a really good wrestler. She's wrestled for Glow. She's wrestled, I want to say, for Impact for a little bit. So that should actually be a good match. But like I said, we're 5 months away, so really you don't know who. I'm sure everyone's going to be available for it, so anyone who wants to be on the card will clearly say, "Hey, Herb, put me on it," because I know he talked to me today about he's got some people from Tennessee, he's got some people from Florida. I'm assuming he didn't say, but Dory Funk's and a bunch of people up here last year, so I don't know if he's going to do it again this year, but. People from Arkansas wants to come, people from Texas. So I know they joked about that the Rumble or the Battle Royal, that they didn't want to do what they did last year. Because last year there was like 30 some odd people in that ring. And they joked about not making it that many people this year. But with everyone coming out of the woodwork that wants to be in that thing, you never know. There might be 40 fucking people wanting to be in that Rumble.
I tell you what I would love, and I'm not going to discuss why while it's being recorded, but I would love to see a switch to a Royal Rumble style.
We always started out with everyone in the ring, didn't we?
It's always been traditional because we're an old school promotion.
Yeah,
but I would love to see it switch to a Royal Rumble style.
Last year
we did
style.
2 groups because there were so many. We did 15, and then after like 10 minutes, released another 15.
Right.
And I wrestled my match trying to get my title back from Vincent, and then winning for the first group in the next match. Good
And,
time.
there might be some surprises in there too, because, last year, Herb hired some people just to be thrown into the Battle Royal. And I think some even had a match. I can't think of his name, but he had a match with Prater last year.
Interest.
Who?
Interest.
Yeah. So you never know who can appear on a SICW card.
Well, considering the Von Erichs are such a huge part of wrestling at the Chase, at least a couple, the Atkinson boys are. I think they go by the first name now. Well, the
They
first
go by
last
the
name,
Von
not the Von Erichs.
Erichs.
They go by the Von Erichs now. Okay. At
Yeah.
least one of them should show up since they are a major part. And
Well, here's a catch though. They just signed a contract. Was it with Impact? I think it was
AEW. They were just on
AEW.
AEW.
Yeah, I mean, you never know because AEW is pretty good with sharing their guys.
yeah, I was gonna say
Uh,
Tony should let them. I mean, it's
But you never know too, because right now with that movie being out, those are the golden gooses. At least I would use them as the golden gooses. So I would be taking them everywhere with me and not really wanting them to. I would want to make the money off of their name and not give them to someone else that you like. I wouldn't want them to give them to St. Louis for another company if I'm going to hit St. Louis, which they are. Was it at the ain't it at the end of this month? AEW is going to be in St. Louis. I'm pretty
I
sure
don't
at
know.
the end.
I don't.
I'm pretty sure January AEW hits and then WWE comes. Yeah,
I
I
say,
mean,
That's what they did it last time too.
Bobby, you're pretty quick on the internet. Why don't you search that out real quick?
I tell you who I would like to see on more local level that I just watched recently, and talking about Miranda Gordy, Tootie Lane. That girl can freaking work. I would love to see her go with Miranda Gordy.
Yeah. There was a little bit of size difference. I like Tootie. I met her many a times. She was actually on my unreleased documentary that was done on me.
January 20th.
January 20th. So yeah, not too many. Shoot, we're already on January 3rd.
And those two are not on their poster.
Well, there we go. And they got ties to St. Louis, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even mind. Herb had Kevin Von Erich in, before. I wouldn't mind having Kevin come back in. I mean, he was born over here, so
Fun
granted
fact,
he was born in Illinois, but
got a fun fact for you. You remember the hospital that Kevin was born in?
St.
Memorial
Elizabeth.
Hospital. No,
St.
it was
Elizabeth.
St. Elizabeth.
I was born in St. Elizabeth as well.
There you go. I think if you were in Belleville, you were more than likely born in St. Elizabeth. People you talk to about all the time. No one I know really comes out and says they were born in Memorial. Were you?
Bobby.
Go
I was
figure. The
born in
oddball.
I was born at St. Elizabeth, but St. Elizabeth's in California.
Yeah. Well, sorry. You're not the cool kid. Neither is Bobby. But yeah, man. So that May 18th is going to be awesome. And I would strongly tell you to buy hotel rooms
I'll
because
be 21
sometimes,
too. We can drink.
right. I'm just
Well,
going to put
you
this out
can.
there for
I'll be
fans.
21, Bobby. I'll be 21. May 6th, my birthday.
Oh,
Nah,
that's awesome.
Ooh.
good way to celebrate.
But, some of the most coolest things happen after the show, especially since it's going to be a 2-day weekend thing. Now granted, they might not sign autographs for you on Friday night because that's what they get paid to do on Saturday. So everyone out there, keep that in mind. But it doesn't mean you can't come up to them and talk to them and because Enzo last year, man, he was out in the parking lot a lot of times, talking to everyone and getting chauffeured around and
I drove him around for a little bit.
yeah. So I mean, he was very cool to hang out with. You know, because after the show Saturday, you know, I think it was Destiny who came and got me and said, "Hey, Enzo's out in the parking lot. I want you to meet him." So, you know, well, now my dogs are going to go wild. They're a little louder than you know, playing with a squeaky toy. But all right, man. I think we learned a lot about you tonight. I give you all the hopes and props for your 2024. You know, just what I've seen from you from this year. I think you've done a great job. So who knows what's in your future for you this year?
Thank
You
you.
know, maybe there's a tag title reign in your name or Central States. And hell, you know, I'll throw it out there. If Herb will sign a deal, I'll have you go against me too. You know,
2024 Rising Star.
there you go.
Real
Hell yeah.
rookie of the year.
All right. Does
I
you
thought Glenn
two
was
have
still
any
rookie
more
of the year.
questions for Brice?
Glenn's always going to be Rookie of the Year. He has one win in a year.
I think he actually got two now, but
Did he wrestle
No,
himself?
it was a broom.
well, you
Oh, the
know,
broom.
when you side with the likes of a Sean Vincent, you get what you get. Pretty simple there. Brice, is there anything else you would like us to know? What would you like your fans to know if you give them a chance to hear from you?
Well, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, so I guess I'll just plug my Facebook page, Brice Cawvey. I haven't posted there recently, but getting back into the new year. You know, we got the show coming up on the 13th. I'll be there. I've heard I'm wrestling in a tag match, so
There you go.
if you want to see me, I'll be at the show in Belleville at the Belle Fairgrounds on January 13th, and TV tapings the next day.
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome.
January 13th, doors open at 6. Show starts at 7. You know, it's a good time. We try to keep it family friendly. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I don't know if it's going to happen that night because that cage match with Attila and Gary Jackson. But either way, it's going to be a great night. Anytime there's a cage match, I love cage matches. I've done a few last year. Would love to keep that trend going, but I know you don't want to do it all the time. Your body doesn't want you to do it all the time either. So, but on that note, thank you, Brice, for coming in tonight. It was definitely an honor and a privilege to have you come on. You know, been training with you for about a year now, I guess, and I always thought you had a good head on your shoulders. Anything I ever asked of you, you've always done. And just like tonight, well, I actually asked you yesterday, but wasn't no time along where you said, I'm game, you know. So I appreciate that of you. But man, it was an awesome time tonight. I think we definitely learned a little bit from you. We will keep tabs with you throughout the year. So if anything cool happens, you win your first strap or you branch out somewhere else, you know, we'll definitely reach out to you and get that info as well. But as always, like I always end this with, if you like what you see here, please like, comment, share, you know, tell your friends. If you're in the St. Louis area and you're a wrestler, well, let me take this back. If you are a wrestler from anywhere else and you want to get seen in St. Louis, you know, we have the ear of Herb Simmons. So if you want to jump on the podcast, let us know. We'll try to fit you in. We got a couple lined up, but we'll try to get you in as well. And I've always said podcasts are a way to get you into a new territory. But again, like, comment, share, tell your friends. If you don't like the podcast, let us know that too. You know, that's fine with me. But as the
Be
views
prepared for a retort.
as the views show, a lot of people like our podcast. You know, just that James Beard one is over 3,000 views already. And I tell you, when you have an hour plus some podcast, it's very hard to get people to watch it. A lot of people don't have the attention span. They want in and out, 15 minutes and done. So to have over a video that has over 3,000 views, man, we're doing something right. But if there's something you'd like us to change, let us know and we'll think about it. Also, if you like the two little things, true or false, or if you like the one with name that gimmick, let us know. I know a few of you guys have got on here and gave us some ideas, and we used them last week. Give us some more. We'll use them next week. And next week, I'll just announce it. We got Herb Simmons on next week. And he's going to give us more of a rundown of the Fan Fest Part 2, which, like I said, I heard the rumors, but he's the man to actually can sign over the details to us and let us know everything that's going down. But for the Squared Ring podcast, thank you, Brice. But you guys have a good night, and we will see you next week with Herb
Have a good night,
Simmons.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Adios.
All right, see you. Thanks, Brice.